So that method, that funda that the lab instructor or the faculty is disseminating is to be very keenly, very focusedly, full of concentration. You have to listen to it. And if you are not listening, obviously your experiment, you won't be able to execute the experiment, right? Fine. So that is very much required. So what I meant to say is, technical lectures are delivered in many situations and circumstances and many places with different orientation and mindset, with a different direction and different approaches. So sometimes the faculty is authoritative, means there are times where one side lecture will go on. First the faculty feels like making you aware about the theories, making you aware about the laws, making you aware about the facts, making you aware about the informations related to that particular concept. So that is authoritative, means he feels he is authority, he is an authority who has to give you the knowledge, right. There are times when he will demonstrate, as I have cited right now, he will demonstrate the whole experiment in front of you through different methods, the step by step, how and what is to be done in order to perform a particular activity. Fine. So he will demonstrate. Hybrid. There are times where a technical expert approaches in a multiple dimension. He not only gives authoritative way of delivery of his technical lecture, but at the same time he even uses PPT, he even uses handouts, even uses say video, even uses a particular note. So there are different ways, hybrid. He may adopt a different style, right? Fine. As I have already said, there are different style, different methods of technical lecture delivery. What happens in seminar? What happens in conference? There also a technical lecture is going on. Some expert has been called, some scientist has been called, some say corporate level expert has been called, and what he is doing is he is giving his technical expertise, sharing his technical expertise on a particular topic. Then you have to understand, lecture, technical lecture is different from a motivation lecture. It is more raw, it is more direct, it is more talking about specifically about subject matter, monotonous. It is not like the technical lecture doesn't motivate you, doesn't entertain you, right. So you have to understand that technical lecture is raw. So raw means you should not have an orientation that something of entertainment. I am getting bored. You should have to have patience. You have to have patience, right. If you do not have patience in technical lecture, then what would happen? You will be physically present, mentally absent. What happens when the subject matter is too much overloaded with information? Your brain starts pushing the buttons off and you are not able to pay attention to all the information that the faculty members disseminates. What happens while you are not keeping well in the class and the faculty is trying to tell you the formula of some theorem, integration or differentiation? You are not able to focus, right? And once you are not able to focus, then what happens? You miss a lot. So it is not entertainment, it is not motivation, it is completely raw. So be well prepared. Where you are, with what mindset you should be as a student, as a recipient, as a receiver, right? If you are not clear about these things, what would happen is you will not be able to generate, create knowledge for which you are attending that particular technical lecture, right? So technical lecture purpose is to share knowledge. Technical lecture purpose is to share the objective of the subject matter. Technical lecture has an objective of sharing or targeting a particular problem at hand, and with certain questions the technical expert creates certain questions, and based on those questions he creates a pathway how he is going to move ahead. Technical lecture has a theme, right? Technical lecture has certain findings. Some scientist, why he created that particular concept, he had certain findings, and he is trying to make you aware about those findings. Fine. And how those findings were generated, how those findings or results were generated. There were analysis, right? Certain variables were taken into account, certain variables were constant, certain variables were dynamic in nature, and while making certain variables constant, what impact it had on the dynamic variables, and how those dynamic variables made the necessary changes in the hypothesis. Do you remember we were talking about thesis, we were talking about report, we were talking about project, and how a hypothesis is created, how a researcher creates an hypothesis, and based on those hypothesis results are generated, right? So that findings you should know, because that finding will help you to generate your personal concepts. Fine. So by now I guess you are clear about what is technical lecture. If I try to share what is the definition of technical lecture, if I try to define, it is a lecture completely based on sharing the techniques based on a particular subject matter or a particular topic, talking about theme, talking about findings, talking about analysis, talking about objective, talking about methods, talking about scope, talking about limitation related to that particular problem, related to that particular topic. And more are you aware about these terms? I am using these key terms. What I said, and why I have written this. This is also a technical lecture, right? I am talking about certain techniques of understanding technical lecture. So this is also a technical lecture. So what I did, I first of all mentioned the technical key terms. And at the moment I have mentioned these technical key terms, and while you will listen to this particular video, then what would happen? This will be a guiding principle. You will understand my narration, my communication, that oral communication from the orientation of these terms. Okay, where is sir talking about structure, where is sir talking about pathway, what he means to say by theme, what is his understanding about findings and analysis, what is his understanding about results and methods. I had certain methods, right? I started using certain examples, I started explaining by taking certain examples from a physics lab, from chemistry lab. I had certain way, right, a method. So you have to understand that. Fine. So by now I guess you are clear about technical lecture and what is technical lecture, what are the key terms from where you have to understand the technical lecture, how a technical lecture is delivered. It should be direct, facilitator or a modulator, authoritative, demonstrative or hybrid. Now we are going to talk about the 7 C's, the 7 C's of communication. Hey, this particular topic covers up the whole syllabus of technical communication. When I talk about 7 C's, I talk about everything. Where will these 7 C's be applied? When I say 7 C's, what are those 7 C's? C stands for, one C is clear, other C is correct, other one is complete, other one is concise, other one is concrete, other one is coherent, other one is courteous. And where this will be applied? Hey, everywhere. Everywhere. Maybe it may be you are delivering a presentation, there also it will be covered up. Whether you are writing a thesis, there it will be covered up. You are writing a letter, there also it will be covered up. You are writing a report, you are writing a proposal, you are writing a project. Everywhere you are giving a presentation, anywhere, everywhere. It should be following these 7 C's. If you are not following that 7 C's, you are writing an email, right? Everywhere these 7 C's will be followed. So when I say these all things, you have to remember. You have to remember how to follow these techniques, these suggestions while you are using, while you are really literally communicating at any space, at any time, at any place, in front of anyone, with whatever objective, with whatever purpose, with whatever problems, with whatever intention and intent. You have to follow these 7 C's, and those 7 C's, as I have already mentioned, gradually one by one we will be carrying on, and try to understand how and what these 7 C's are, what they mean, what they want you to adopt, and how these 7 C's will be able to be implemented in the communication process. The first one is clear. What do you mean by clear? Clear means what? Clear not only from a receiver point of view, at the same time. That process of communication, I said the 3 models, the 3 basic model on which the whole communication process thrives. The first one is your process of communication, second one is LSRW, third one is your language. So, you are using language everywhere, I am using language, right? Sender, receiver, process communication, I am a sender, you are a receiver, right? Third one, LSRW, you are listening, I am speaking, right? Fine. Maybe you will write down while you listen to my lecture, make a note of it. Fine. So, you have to understand, clear means from both the point of view, clear in terms of language. Your grammar should be clear, right? You should be clear, your objective should be clear, your purpose should be clear. You should be clear about subject matter. Subject matter is very much important, right? Now, that was from the sender's point of view. Receiver point of view, I have already talked in the barriers of communication that you have to remember who is your listener, who is your receiver. Based on the knowledge of the receiver, you should use the technical knowledge. If you are talking to a BTech first year student, then the knowledge related to the BTech fourth year student cannot be disseminated, cannot be shared, because he is not well equipped with the fundamentals of the particular subject matter. Fine. So, that is the reason you have to make sure that who is your target audience, who is at the receiving end, and what is his knowledge. And not only his knowledge, at the same time even his the language. You know English, that is the reason I am talking in English, right? But if I start using language to a villager of India, he won't be able to know what am I talking about. So, you must be aware the language known to the receiver. There are times scientist has to talk in Hindi, there are times even a faculty has to come down to Hindi, right, or any regional language for it matters, right. So, language is very important. At the same time, I have said knowledge level, you should be very clear about the receiver's knowledge level. Based on the receiver's knowledge level, you have to talk. We cannot exceed or precede, we cannot talk less or more, there should be a balance. Language, culture, even culture impacts your greetings, your salutation. There are certain cultural or traditional impact. If a particular community, if a particular people belongs to a particular culture, they have a different orientation as far as their behavioral characteristics are concerned, their belief system is concerned, their ethics are concerned, their morals are concerned. These are also to be taken into consideration. There are times in presentation, I am talking about presentation, right. Fine. Second, I am not only talking about technical lecture, let me make it clear. Technical lecture is a part of communication. Communication is done varied, with varied perspective, with varied approaches, at varied situations and circumstances. It is not that communication is only done for, even communication, Sandeep Maheshwari motivates, it is also communication, well planned communication. Political discourse is also well planned communication. So, you have to understand, I am talking about different aspects. I am talking about the sales presentation, I am talking about say service presentation, I am talking about say motivation presentation, right. So, you have to understand this, right. Now, second comes your correct. How your communication can be perceived with correctness. When I say correct, what I mean to say is facts and information. Do you remember in one of my lecture I talked about, see, in communication people are not interested more to listen to opinion and views unless and until it is backed up by proper facts, proper information. And what are those facts and information? just to make you clear about what is fact and information means what. In IAS examination, in PCS examination, scholarly people study from different books, but you'll be surprised, but suppose there was an emperor who was born in 1961, right? One of the books said that an emperor was born in 1961, and but in this AICTE approved, there was a book, sorry, what is that, there's a body, right, there's a body, a government body that that allows certain books to be standard books, right? And if he has not studied from a standard book, and there it was not 1969 but it was 1971, your questions will be wrong. There was this information you have studied from a book, and based on that book's information you have marked the answer in the IAS or PCS examination, but your answer will be wrong, because that's the reason why it is suggested to the IAS preparer or the PCS preparation holders that please refer to standard books. Whatever you study, whatever you plan, prepare from standard books. And if you are not preparing from standard books, then what would happen is the chances are there you won't be able to qualify the examination. So standard books is what? Those standard books are entitled to claim that this can be considered as facts, this can be considered as information, right? So whatever facts and information is considered, whatever statement, whatever sentence, whatever a particular sentence that you say is considered to be fact, which is related to some authoritative, some claimed books. You cannot claim every statement to be fact, right? Fine. So fact and information. Correctness means you should remember that it is fact information. And you know what, another challenge is there, that while we talk about facts and information, it can be related to, as I have already mentioned about that cell, CELL, even it is studied in botany, even it is studied in what, in geology, but there the perspectives are different. So when you talk about fact, when you talk about information in communication, stick to a subject matter. Make yourself clear about that. Fact and information should not be varied from different subjects. If you are talking about a particular presentation, if you are talking about technical lecture, make sure that subject matter guides and controls your picking of information and facts. If it is varied, then what happens? The receiver end, the listener end, they will get confused, they will get distracted, they will lose interest in your presentation. Fine. So you should be facts and information subject knowledge based. It should be completely subject knowledge based. No assumption, no guesswork should be made. Make sure that you do not guess that this could be, do not try to presuppose anything related to a topic, because if you presuppose or guess or assume anything, then what would happen? You will derail, you will get distracted from the subject matter, and if you distract from the subject matter, then the confusion, the wrong information, the wrong facts, the wrong knowledge will be disseminated by you. Maybe the receiver is a novice at that point of time, but later on, while he comes to know about the facts and figures about related to that particular knowledge, then he will claim, he will consider you to be not a right person,